some family situation. And in my case, I was very blessed. I landed into an Irish Catholic family, married parents, mom and dad never drank, never took drugs, no obvious madness. And there were five of us brought up in that environment. There was no money. Hence part of my drive to learn how other people got ahead. Hence my drive to finding out how to build a business, because going back to employees trade time for money. My dad did that all his life. They taught us all how to work hard. They taught us all. My mother would say, "You get nothing for nothing," right? But she also said, she encouraged us to make mistakes. The man or the woman who never made a mistake made nothing, she said.
Colm, at what stage in life did you find yourself? What relationship broke you to discover yourself?
Wow. I wasn't expecting that hard question to start. Having found myself, I came across this thing some years back, John, on social media, which I've embraced ever since, which is instead of us getting older in life, we're in fact graduating up through the levels of life like in a game. And so I achieved level 60 in March of this year, 2023, and I'm very proud of having achieved level 60. This poor Sinead O'Connor, who unfortunately passed during the week, and she was only level 56. So we've no idea what's coming around the corner for any of us, John. I'm at the stage in my life where I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with the third act, I think is what it's being called. I'm not retired yet, but I've got my sights set on not retiring per se, but pursuing different things. But if I can maybe go back a little, and my apologies for rambling around this answer, I took my first step into self-employment at the age of 35, right? And it took me a number of years to get to that point. So I think probably around the age 30, in fact, I do, now that I remember, so exactly half my lifetime ago at age 30, I remember hitting a wall, basically, right, personally, and realizing that through indecision and without having a plan, life had gifted me, there we go, gift, right? Life had gifted me a plan, which involved family, it involved relationships, it involved a job, but I wasn't particularly fulfilled. And so I stepped about on a journey at around age 30 to find out what would have me more fulfilled. And I realized through soul searching then that I was in a job and I didn't want to have a job. Now, I didn't want to be unemployed either, right? But I didn't want to be employed. And I stumbled across Robert Kiyosaki's work, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the cash flow quadrant. In particular, the cash flow quadrant spoke to me, John. And in that book, which is the second in his series, Robert Kiyosaki discusses the difference between the four players in the world of commerce. There's the employee, the self-employed, the business owner, and the investor. And so I knew I was an employee at the time, and I was employed because my dad had been an employee, and his dad had been an employee, and his dad had been an employee. So that was all I knew. But I realized an employee trades time for money, as does the self-employed individual, the man with the van or the lady with the flower shop or the photographer who does weddings, right? And no disrespect to any of those professions, but they self-employed trade their time for money. On the other side of the quadrant, cash flow quadrant, Kiyosaki introduced us to the business owner and the investor. Now, I had no money, right? So I realized the only path for me was to learn the skills of becoming a business owner. Business owner being somebody who leverages their time and their money by involving other people in their organization. And proud to say, here we are 30 years from that moment of insight. We've just celebrated 20 years of our school meals business, which is now an 8-figure business in Ireland today, employed more than 200 people. And so I'm very proud of that fact, if that makes sense. So long-winded answer to your question, I realized around age 30 I needed to make changes. I began to make those changes, and here we are having this conversation 30 years on at age or level 60. And in the main, it has worked. Hasn't it been easy necessarily? Certainly hasn't been all roses, but it's been worth it.
Well, but in sharing your experience of employment and self-employment and the transition from employment to self-employment, as you say, Colm, it's never, set in stone. There are risks you have to take. There's hard lessons you have to learn along the journey. And as you say, you're always learning.